Welcome to Fireside Giants, and my name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Today we're doing a roundup rumor mill, essentially for all the Giants rumors that are flowing and what we're seeing on social media and the analysts, because I really can't figure out what the Giants are doing. I mean, on one day I'll see wide receivers, the next day I'll see pass rushers, the next day I'll see cornerbacks, and it's like, what are the Giants doing here? And what is real, what's fake? And in my opinion, they're doing a phenomenal job of confusing everybody, including the analysts and fan base, because nobody really knows where they are going, which I love. In recent years, in the past, it was so easy to tell where they were going. There were rumors that ended up being true, that they were going this specific player, that Dave Gettleman was in love with this guy. Everybody knew they were picking Saquon like 2 months before the draft. Even Daniel Jones a week before, I was hearing stuff about it. I think it was from Josina Anderson was saying they really like Daniel Jones. And this is a better scenario for us because now we don't know what they're doing. And if we don't know, I imagine other teams probably don't know as well, which gives them more leverage in a trade back scenario. You don't know who they're valuing. The Leonard Floyd a couple years ago with Jerry Reese. The Chicago Bears leapfrogged us because they knew we wanted him, and they knew that he wasn't going to last until then. So, this is what happens when people know what you're going to do. The Giants are doing a better job of throwing out smoke screens and telling the reporters one thing, this thing, and we're going to address a few rumors that we have heard from the reporters and kind of give our opinions on if they are true or not. Before we do that, my friend Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited with what the Giants are doing here. I don't know how intentional it is, but no reporter seems to know what they're doing. Every reporter thinks that they know, but every reporter thinks something different than every other reporter. And I think that there's a lot of value to take from that, right? The Giants aren't being loose-lipped this year, which is hugely important. You think back to 2018, 2 months out, we all knew that we were taking Saquon Barkley. We heard the other rumors, and we were like, well, I don't know. They've been talking to this quarterback. They've been doing this because they were doing their due diligence, but we all knew that they were taking Saquon Barkley, and then we all knew that they were taking Daniel Jones the following year. We just didn't know if they were taking him at 6 or 17, but we knew Daniel Jones was going to be a Giant by the end of the NFL draft. Like, that was a given. This year, it's different. We don't have that prospect that's standing out like, oh, we know that they're going to take him. We felt that maybe it was Gregory Rousseau, but his draft stock is tanking so badly that there's no chance that they take him at 11 now, unless, that's the smokescreen, unless that's what they're going to do. They're going to take him at 11. That's the only, one that could be, the big surprise. But really, the Giants set themselves up perfectly in free agency to have an NFL draft where they can go at any position and it'll be a successful draft. They can address any need, any want, any best player available. That's what they've given themselves the opportunity to do because of what they did in free agency. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's going to create this, disillusion. We're not going to know what they're going to do until they do it. And I think that's really exciting. So it's going to make the draft more exciting to watch as a Giants fan, first of all. And then second of all, it's going to be huge for the Giants because, like you mentioned, trade back scenarios, no teams jumping up in front of them, opens up a whole can of worms for possibilities for the Giants to have a really successful draft this year.
Exactly. You don't have to go with a wide receiver or a cornerback or this or that. The names that I have heard in these rumors range from Devonta Smith to Jalen Waddle to Rashawn Slater to Micah Parsons to, Jalen Phillips. They've been ongoing. I don't think any media member has any idea what's going on, and I love that. I know every single day I'm hearing a different rumor. And let's start with the first one. Matt Lombardo from G-Man HQ says that Dave Gettleman is enamored by Devonta Smith. Who isn't enamored by Devonta Smith? That's such a broad and vague thing. Like the guy just won the Heisman. He's arguably the best college receiver in history. Who isn't enamored by Devonta Smith? I know the size concerns, but every team I imagine would love to have him just based on needs. Obviously, some teams are ruled out of that. But the Giants, I'm sure, would be like Devonta Smith, adding him to a weapon arsenal consisting of Kenny Golladay, Saquon, Sterling Shepard, John Ross, Darius Slayton, even Dante Pettis. That's a good unit. Adding Devonta Smith to it, of course they're enamored by that. Let's not get crazy here. I don't think there's any stock in this alleged rumor. Dave Gettleman seems to get obsessed with some players. We know this from the past with Saquon Barkley, even Daniel Jones, and Will Hernandez, another one. He falls in love with players and he does not look away. But this isn't the Dave Gettleman show anymore. This is a communicative. This is a combined effort with Judge. Patrick Graham, who's the assistant head coach, Dave Gettleman. This is not Dave Gettleman's show to run. This is a effort that is being contributed to by everybody, and I think that's the big thing here. I'm not, Dave Gettleman being enamored by Devonta Smith doesn't mean anything to me anymore because it's not his show. Anthony, what do you think about this? Do you think there's anything to this rumor at all?
I don't even like the title of it, the headline. Dave Gettleman is enamored with Devonta Smith. You mentioned it. Like, who isn't, right? We're all excited to see what he'll do in the league. We're all enamored by him because he's such a unique player. We've never seen a wide receiver enter the NFL at 170 pounds and succeed. So we're all enamored by Devonta Smith because he was so talented. The size weight concern that we have right now never showed up on his college film. He still dominated everybody he faced. We're all enamored by Devonta Smith. Of course Dave Gettleman is. I mean, it's like almost, it's not even news, right? Like, of course he's enamored with Devonta Smith. Why is that a headline? We all are. Every GM is enamored with him. We know that there's teams that are picking in front of us that are enamored with him. We know there's teams picking way after. I don't know. The headline doesn't do anything for me. Yeah, I'm sure it's true. I'm sure he's enamored, but like you said, we all are. I don't really put much stock into that one. I think Matt Lombardo sometimes has really good inside sources. Like he had the Blake Martinez thing like a month in advance with the Giants signing him. But with this one doesn't really, do anything for me. The Giants being enamored, of course they are. We all are.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just dropped a smoke grenade in the middle of the mosh pit here. I just don't. I don't think there's much to it. Like you said, we're all enamored by Devonta Smith. If we got him, everyone would be like, "Oh, this isn't a big surprise. He was on the board at 11, arguably the best wide receiver in college history. Easy selection there." And then all the analysts, even like Mel Kiper had today, Jalen Waddle. And I love Jalen Waddle. You have him as arguably the wide receiver one in this draft, and I think that he would be a phenomenal selection. But I don't know if he'll last until 11. And the wide receivers, that's like the Giants are back and forth between pass rusher, wide receiver, pass rusher, wide receiver. We've also seen how many resources they've allocated toward evaluating these pass rushers. Patrick Graham, Spence Chaos, Coach Chaos, Joe Judge, Kyle O'Brien. They've all been sent to see these pass rushers. At Miami's pro day, you go see Jalen Phillips and Gregory Rousseau, Quincy Roche. There's a ton of guys. There's a ton of players, but none of them are worth picking at 11, in my opinion. They went to go see Jason Owe out of Penn State. So the rumors that the Giants are enamored by a pass rusher, of course they probably are. They need pass rush help, but that doesn't mean they're gonna go with one at 11. They might be doing their due diligence on every single pass rusher because they want to know if one falls to 11, if one falls to 42, is it worth drafting a guy, one of them at 42, or is it worth even trading up to get your guy? I don't think they're evaluating for 11. People just make that assumption because they're the best pass rushers in the class, but this is an extremely weak pass rusher class. So I'm not putting much value into these evaluations they're doing and sending all these guys there. I think it's a lot easier to take BPA in the first round than it is to actually do the evaluations and find second round impact players, third round impact players. That's where I think most of your evaluation should be going into the second day picks, not your first day picks. Everybody knows the first day picks. There's tons of film you can go and watch online. There's tons of connections. Joe just could call up his buddy Nick Saban at Alabama and say, hey, how's Patrick Surtain? How is Jalen Waddle? How's Devonta Smith? He doesn't even have to go see their pro days. But when it comes to Jason Owe, who has no film basically to work off of, when you look at Jalen Phillips, who had missed last year, has concussion issues. If you look at Greg Russo, has only 1 year of film. They want to go see these guys in person. They want to go talk to them in person because they don't have not have the necessary connections at those schools, but they also don't have enough film to look at. So when I'm looking at those pass rushers, in my opinion, we're looking at evaluations at 42, not at 11, because one of those guys is going to drop. One of those pass rushers in an extremely weak class is going to drop, and the Giants are going to have done their homework on it. So that's kind of how I feel about the Giants, their pass rush rumors. I think it's more tailored around 42 than it is 11. What do you think about that, Anthony?
I agree. I think, when you look at these pass rushers, all of the top edge guys, none of them really are worthy of being picked at 11 in, a traditional sense. Like, if you're taking them at 11, you're taking them at 11 because you need an edge rusher, or that's how you feel. You feel like you need an edge rusher, so you want to take one with your first pick in the draft. Okay, that's fine. I understand that line of thinking, but, you are reaching, and the way to maximize that value would be to trade down. And personally, I think that's what this is. I think the Giants want to trade down. I think that's what they're looking to do. I think they're looking to get down to about 20 overall and get a few extra picks, maybe even a future first-round pick, depending on who's trading up for what. If there's a quarterback at 11, I don't think there will be. I think they're all going in the top 10. But regardless, if someone's trading up, they might be willing to pay premium depending on who's on the board. And I think the Giants this year want to take advantage of that so they can just land their edge rusher in the first round. We've heard a lot of rumors about that in the past. We haven't heard it as much this year. We've heard that they should trade down. We've heard people give their opinions. That's certainly my opinion that trading down is a huge, beneficial option. But last year, we know that the Giants tried to trade down from number 4 overall. We know for a fact they called all the teams behind them. No one wanted to move up. Okay, that's fine. Then in the second round, they had a deal in place to trade down, but Xavier McKinney fell to them. They said we can't do that. They had a deal in place with the Chicago Bears, but Xavier McKinney was too good to pass up. I think they made the right decision there. I love Xavier McKinney as a prospect. I think you're going to see a similar thing this year. I think they're going to try to trade down. They'll probably put a deal in place, or, maybe teams won't bite. Maybe no one's going to want to jump to 11. Maybe they're sitting too far back to a point where teams aren't trying to jump ahead. There's not going to be a quarterback on the board. So maybe they won't find a trade partner. Or maybe they'll have a deal in place, and then one of these players that they're enamored with falls into their laps, and they just take him there. But I think really what the Giants want to do, I think you really mentioned it and hit it well, either pass rusher at 42, they got to go early in the second round, or they might try and trade up to the back end of the first round. We've seen Dave Gettleman do that. Now, there's a couple of reasons why he might do that, right? Of course, you want to get the pass rusher that's falling down the board before he falls to the second round, and someone at the top of day 2 just takes him. So you could trade up to the back end of the first round on the first night and secure your guy. But the other reason that you would want to do that, if you believe this guy is a really good talent, but you also believe he's a project, right? We think that, Kwity Paye, Jason Owe, Gregory Rousseau, we think these guys are projects, right? If he's a project, you probably want a full 5 years to get this project going rather than 4. Night 1, you draft a rookie, you get the 5th-year option. Night 2, you don't get that. So I think that's where you're looking at the Giants might trade up from round 2 to the back end of round 1 and then draft their edge rusher there. I think they're looking at this class and thinking these are guys we want to take in the second half of the first round, not necessarily at 11, and they have a ton of different avenues as to how they can do that, whether it's a trade down or even a trade up.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right thing. You don't reach for a player at 11 when you have players like Devonta Smith. You just go best player available. Like Dave Gettleman said, take this at face value. You can never have too many great players at any given position. You know what I mean? You can always flip a player. Like you could flip Sterling Shepard at the trade deadline if you drafted Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith. He has an out in his contract next year. He has 2 years left on his deal. He's only making like $10 million per season. He's a great player, and a team would probably trade for him. Maybe a mid-round pick. That's what I'm looking at in terms of you turn assets into draft capital if you have a player that you think is going to take over in the future there. Like the Giants can do that if they wanted to. They can draft Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, and to trade Sterling Shepard at the deadline if they want to. I love Sterling Shepard. I'm not saying they should do that. I'm just saying business-wise, like they could execute that if they wanted to. There's no pass rusher worth being taken at 11. Jalen Phillips is probably the closest, and Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia is probably the second closest. But neither of them are worthy of taking at 11, especially since 5 quarterbacks are probably going to go in the top 10 picks. There's going to be a couple monster players on the board for us. Monster players. Like, there's no reason to reach. So I'm not too concerned about this. I think people are looking at this 11 pick like it's going to be a pass rusher because they're putting a lot of resources into it. That doesn't mean that. Like I said, it's a lot easier to draft BPA than it is to draft in the mid rounds, the second day, third day of the draft. It's a lot harder to do that. You have to put those extra evaluations in there. You have to do your extra homework if you want to find the right player, because the Giants want their first day and second day picks to be instant impact players. They want it to be like Xavier McKinney without the injury, of course. Andrew Thomas, like they want these guys to be instant impact players. And that's why, it's a lot easier to do those, it's easy to pick Micah Parsons. What he offers day one. It's easy to pick Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith. They don't need to do that much homework on these guys to know they're going to make an instant impact day one. But Jason Owe, I don't know. He has 1 year of production, but his athleticism stands out. We want to go see his pro day, see how athletic he is. Jalen Phillips, we want to go talk to him, see where his head is at, because we're not entirely sure if he's ready to quit football after one more concussion. Medically, we want to go see how that goes. And, he didn't play that much after the concussions. He was in a car accident. He broke his wrist. How are those things doing? Let's think like Gregory Rousseau. What position are you comfortable playing? Let's go see. What is his athleticism like? Because we saw him play zero tech. He's not going to play that in the NFL. Where is he going to translate at the next level? Joseph Asai doesn't have that much of a game film. Not done a ton of action. But he's a super great kid with a great story. What is he like? What is his athleticism like? Can he be that next big player? He's a little raw, but could he be that good? There's a lot of unknowns with these pass rushers that they wanted to figure out and get into the know, because it's easy to know those big guys. Easy to pick them if they fall to. Easy to know Rashawn Slater. Easy to know Elijah Vera Tucker, even, which is what some people have dropped into the Giants at 11 now, because he's actually a great fit. I actually really like him out of USC. Even in a trade back scenario, would love to have him. So that's kind of how I feel about the pass rushers. I think we're basing this off of a vision of 11, but I think they're looking at 42 as who drops to us and who should we take. If there's 2 pass rushers available, which one do we go for? Because I think it's a weak class. Guys will be available. So that's how I feel about the pass rushers for the most part. I think that, a little overblown. Now let's talk about one more trade rumor that we did here. Jordan Raanan said that the Giants have interest in Patrick Surtain and Micah Parsons. I think personally they don't have interest in Patrick Surtain. There's no point in drafting signing Adoree Jackson if you're going to go get a cornerback. Although I love Surtain, I think he'd be a great player, especially to develop behind Bradbury and Adoree Jackson. I think he has CB1 written all over him if he has that time to develop properly, get some action. But again, I'm not drafting a guy at 11 to sit on the bench. You know what I mean? I'm not drafting Patrick Surtain to sit behind Adoree Jackson on the bench. We need an instant playmaker, not a guy who's going to develop for a year. That's what you have 3rd round picks for. Guys who can spend that year developing, like if I had to Milan Famu from Syracuse, or Tay Gowan from UCF rather. So that's kind of like how I feel about this. I don't think Patrick Surtain. I think Jordan Raanan made a simple connection with Alabama and Joe Judge and said, okay, this makes sense for them because cornerbacks are a premium, and usually they need a year to develop. But I think the Giants want instant impact on day one with the 11th overall pick. And then he said they don't have much interest in Parsons. The off-the-field allegations and stuff are pretty serious. But I think they're going to rely on Coach Chaos to determine that. Coach Chaos was with him in Penn State. So was the new offensive line coach, Pat Flaherty. He was with him at Penn State. He spent time there. So I think for the most part, the Giants, they have the connection between Micah Parsons and Chaos. They could always just say, watch after him. Be a mentor for this young man. He's matured. Should we take him? They have the inside source. They're not going to give away that information right now. So I'm not really taking those rumors or Patrick Surtain and Micah Parsons at face value. I think they're more general, educated guesses, or maybe smoke screens that they're putting out. Again, flip flop. If you ever watch The Office, snip snap. Wide receivers, edge rusher, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons, yes, no, maybe so. Who the hell knows? This is it's all counter, it's all just counterintuitive at a certain point. Like everyone's saying something different. Who do you believe? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. We're just hearing all these different rumors. That is a great thing for the Giants because nobody knows what they're going to do. We explained that earlier. But with this Patrick Surtain rumor, I think, I'm reading the quote right now. The quote from Jordan Raanan is, the one outsider from a different position, and I know they just signed Adoree Jackson, but you can never have enough good cornerbacks in this league. If Patrick Surtain is there at 11, from what I understand, that is a name that could intrigue them as well. I mean, sure, it's probably a name that would intrigue them as well. There's probably as well 5, 6, 7, 8 different names that would also intrigue them. I don't know. It's hard to read into this stuff. I think everyone wants to take the quote and then make a headline and run with it, But I don't think you can really read into something like that. Sure, they'd be intrigued because he's a good player. But in terms of his day one instant impact, that's where I'm going to disagree with you in a way, Alex, because I don't think that he's necessarily going to ride the bench. I think if you're taking him, I know he's traditionally an outside corner, and so is Adoree Jackson, but if you're going to have Patrick Surtain, you're gonna have these guys out there. You want them on the field. So I think one of them is gonna have to move into the slot because he's such a talented player, and we think Darnay Holmes is really talented. I love Darnay Holmes. I think he's going to be an excellent slot cornerback for his career. But if you draft someone better ahead of him, you're just gonna have to put him in that position and see how it goes. I think that's kind of what you do there, but. Again, I don't really think that's the route that they go. I don't think they go cornerback. I think they're just intrigued by this certain prospect because he's really good and he's from Alabama, and we know that the Giants love drafting guys from SEC schools. I think that's really what you see here, and I don't think there's too much to read into with that, but, it's an intriguing rumor that they're intrigued by Patrick Surtain, but I don't know how much I want to read into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking into it that much. I think the Giants have their cornerbacks. They just spent 37, 30 or 39 million on Adoree Jackson. It's a ton of money. Then to go and draft a corner doesn't make much sense to me personally. They invested a ton at the position, and having Darnay Holmes too. So I think they're going with a different player there. I think mid-round cornerbacks are always a good move. They have Julian Love as a potential supplement. They have Sam Beal coming back. They have Isaac Yiadom. They didn't release him. He took a massive pay cut. If I had to put my money in it, I'd say definitely not a cornerback at 11. Probably mid-round pick that they can develop. That's how I feel personally. And this is just rumors. We'll address more as they come up. As we get closer to crunch time, about 16 days away. I'm pretty excited, guys. I'm really excited for this draft. It's going to be super, super fun. And for the most part, this could be a franchise-changing draft for the Giants. If they get the right players here, we're talking about a playoff contending team next year, in my opinion. I think we're really close. We have three major holes. I think they are offensive line, pass rusher, maybe just two, because I want to say add another wide receiver. You could make that you could argue that that's a third hole, but the two big ones are the offensive line and then the pass rusher groupings that need support. And I think they're gonna get players for both. This is a weak edge rusher class, which is why they wanted to get Leonard Floyd in free agency. They missed out on him, but I think they're gonna get one in the second round. They're gonna get themselves an offensive line in the first or second round. We'll see how it unfolds. But I think the Giants are in a great position to get a player that makes an impact day one and a decent pass rusher in the second round. So, guys, hope you enjoyed this little episode. We're going through the different rumors for the New York Giants this year. I'm pretty excited about it. Getting close, guys. We're gonna do a nice little draft stream on the day of and just go through the first round with you guys. Of course, it's gonna be super fun. So I'm really excited for that. We'll talk more about that, and also Thursday. Thursday, we're doing an interview with Efeidi Odenigbo. It's going to be really fun. Really excited to get that done and get you guys some information on a new Giant. He's a really great guy. I watched a couple of things with him, a couple of interviews, and he's super funny, super cool, and super chill. Really, really interesting, really intelligent young man. So I'm really excited about that. But Anthony, much appreciated for you coming on and joining us for the second consecutive day after your return to excellence. And guys, make sure to subscribe below on YouTube, turn on notifications for Apple and Spotify, and we'll catch you guys on the next video.